Okay, so you guys have, I'm sure, some of you, have probably been wondering where we've been for the past 6 months. We have not been active on YouTube for a series of complicated reasons that we're going to talk about in this video. Well, we have been on the Appalachian Trail. That's where we have been. And we have completed the Appalachian Trail. We've hiked it from its beginning all the way to its end, almost 2,200 miles. And it took us 5 months roughly to do that. The reason why we decided to do the Appalachian Trail was for a series of complicated reasons. In one of our other videos, we had talked about some of the dramatic events that we had to go through that forced us to move to Arkansas and start our lives over. And going through those events, we started to develop and fortify like negative neural pathways in our mind. And so we wanted to put ourselves in an environment such as the Appalachian Trail that would challenge us and maybe fortify a more positive way to think psychologically and mentally. And the Appalachian Trail did that. That was an amazing experience. We'll talk about that more in other videos. But so now we have to figure out how to reintroduce ourselves back into society. We are at the end of the trail, and we have to go back into society. And that's harder than you think, especially from the position where we stand. So we are not allowed to go back to our homestead. We cannot return to our homestead. We can't return back to our business. We can't return back to what we've worked so hard for the past 5 years of starting over our life. That you guys watched us do. You guys watched us start over. You guys watched us build our homestead up from nothing. You guys watched us start our business from nothing. So we can't return to that. So we have to go somewhere else and do something else. And I'm sure you're thinking, why can't you return? What is the reason why you can't return to your homestead? What is that? What are you talking about? Well, it's the same reason why we went to our homestead to begin with. You know, when we started on the side of that hill in Arkansas with nothing, we were starting our lives over with nothing but $600 and a box of hand carving tools. And we were not financially prepared or mentally prepared or planning on doing that, but we had to start from nothing and build up to what you saw, which wasn't much, but it was something. And that took a lot of work to do from nothing. But we cannot go back there, and the reason why we can't go back there is the same reason why we went there to start with. So let's talk about that reason. And it's difficult for me to talk about anything that I'm going to talk about for a complicated series of reasons. One is fear of ignorant judgment. And I use the term ignorant or ignorance. Let's clarify the meaning of that term, because I don't mean that to be offensive to anyone who's listening. I just mean it to mean what it means. I am ignorant of lots of things. I'm ignorant of TIG welding. I don't know anything about TIG welding. I'm completely ignorant. I don't know much about celestial navigation. There's a lot of things that I'm completely ignorant of, based on the principle of lack of experience and lack of exposure. So I'm ignorant to lots of things. Let's return to my previous statement where I said we are fearful to discuss what we're going to discuss because of facing the ignorant judgment. And we have a lot of reasons, valid reasons to feel that. Okay. It's difficult to talk about. Bear with me. So let's go back in time. When I lived in Virginia, That's where I lived before we went to Arkansas. And we're going to talk about the series of events that happened that forced us to go to Arkansas. So, I'm going to make it quick, hopefully. So I was married, and me and my wife, we had 2 girls that were between the 2 of us, and she already had 2 girls that I had raised since they were tiny little babies. And then we had a son. I'm trying to move through this quickly. And we had a son. That was the last kid we had. And he was born with SMA, that is spinal muscular atrophy. And that is something you can't do anything about. There is no cure for that. But what it is our son was born with SMA, which it means that all of his muscles, any muscle that he's born with, is going to atrophy away. It's going to deteriorate. It's going to go away until he has no ability to clear his throat, to breathe, to nurse, to move in any way, shape, or form. All of his muscle will go away until he ultimately passes away. And he made it to his first birthday. That was a traumatic experience for anybody to go through. My daughters, it was terrible for them to live through. It was terrible for my wife. And it was terrible for our whole community because me and my daughters and my wife in her own way was involved deeply in our community. As you can see from our channel, we care about community. So that was a tough thing to go through. So in going through that, we researched nonstop, hoping to find something that would prevent our son from dying. And we searched day and night, and we were unable to come up with anything. And ultimately, our son passed away, and we were unable to do anything about it. Okay, let me move on from that. And so it's difficult for me to talk about this. Shortly after that, around that same time period, my brother was diagnosed with testicular cancer and lymphoma, and he was basically said that he had no hope. Don't even try to treat it, don't do anything about it, you're not going to make it, was basically the diagnosis there. So he decided he would treat. Keep in mind, we are talking about the reasons why we had to start over in Arkansas. So he decided he would treat his cancer with cannabis because he decided maybe he did have hope. So he decided he would treat his cancer with cannabis, and what he had to do that, that's an unbelievable story in its own. Running from helicopters, bald, skin and bones, trying to salvage his last little bit of cannabis. Unbelievable that people have to go through that in this day and age. Long story short, when I saw the results from that, what the cannabis did for my brother, he also went through had a brain tumor. And my brother is alive and well today. He is still on this earth with us, unlike my son, because of the brave choices he made to not give up and to treat his cancer with cannabis. That is a controversial topic. It's hard to believe, and it's hard to understand the volume of the results that he got. It went from absolutely hopeless, don't even try, basically sent him home on hospice, 2, he's alive and well because of the brave choice he made. Okay. So when I saw the results from that, when I saw that he could produce for himself the cure that was going to preserve his life and bring him back into this world so his brothers and sisters and mother and father could continue to experience life together. When I saw that he could produce that, I realized I could produce for other family members out in the community who thought they would never see their son again, their sister, or their mother or father. When I saw that I could produce what I could not produce for my son, I felt it was my duty as a human being who cares about his community to produce cannabis, a cancer medicine, and give it to people. So that's exactly what I did. I started a cannabis grow in Virginia. I didn't have any money to invest. I didn't have anything, so I started really small. I had a 12 by 16 shed with a couple of lights hanging in it. I could produce almost nothing, no volume of cannabis. When it comes to treating cancer patients, you need a lot of cannabis. What happened next was unbelievable. Anyways, a lot of people's lives were changed positively because they could access medicine that preserved their life and they're still here on this earth. Other people became incredibly judgmental, and ultimately, someone turned in my cannabis grow. That's the ignorant judgment I'm talking about. That's the fear. That's the lack of experience. That's the isolation from experience. Anyways, so the cannabis grow got turned in one morning. Our house that me and my wife and my daughters lived in, which consists of an organic farm that farms food for the community, a cannabis farm that produces cancer medicine for the community, cannabis farm, a couple of lights hanging in a tiny little room. It's all I could afford. It's all I could get together at that time. But it was still making a positive difference. And a workshop to where countless people occupied their time learning skills, and where I provided everything that they would need to come by whenever they needed to do whatever they wanted as far as learning and progressing in anything that they needed to do, from mountain biking to welding to carving to sailing, anything. So that was our homestead. That's what we thought the community needed, and that's what we provided. I won't talk much about that. It was positive. There was so much positivity came from that small, less than 1 acre spot that we had. One morning, long story short, countless Caroline County deputies show up, police officers, and countless cars and countless Suburbans and dogs, and all of them had flak jackets on, bulletproof vests, and automatic rifles with the big banana clips on them. And they come running up the driveway. And so I go out there to talk to them. And when I walk out there to talk to them, they're acting incredibly aggressive, 100% uneducated about anything that we're talking about now, curing cancer, saving people's lives, totally socially isolated, culturally isolated from any sort of reality. And they come up making all kinds of threats. So the first thing I said was, and this is the part that I have to quote myself, I said, "Do you have a warrant?" And they said no, as they're surrounding my property. They're on the property, all up around the house, surrounding me, violating my rights. They said, no. And I said, well, what are you doing here? They said, well, we know there's a marijuana grow. And if you just show it where it is, it'll make it easier for you, which it won't make it easier for me. So I said, so you're going to search the property with no warrant? They said, no. But they were already on the property, already looking through and already violating everything. I said, well, they said, well, we can get a warrant. I said, well, how long will it take you to get the warrant? And they said, it'll take 2 hours. I said, okay, cool. Well, we'll go with the 2-hour option then. So at this time, you know, I say, I'm going to go tell my wife what's going on. She's sitting on the porch. So I go up onto the porch. I'm dragging this story out. I need to go faster. I go up on the porch. I have to get to this one part though. I go up onto the porch and I tell my wife what's going on, and she's angry with me because she is involved with the judgment, you know. But my kids are listening inside the house. So then I go back out, and I know I have to, when you're surrounded and you feel like so violated, you feel like you're just going to crumble to the ground and give up. And so I thought there was no hope for me. And I walked out surrounded by all these police officers making terrible violent threats. And I just started talking about old-timey tractors and traffic and how the area is changing. And I tried to act calm. But I was listening, and my daughters were climbing out the window. My youngest daughter was 8 years old. And my next one up was 12. And then I think the next one up past that was 16 or something. So they were climbing out the window on the other side of the house. And I thought, well, maybe they're going to run into the woods. And so I'm listening, and none of the police officers there are paying any attention because it's all chaos. So I'm like, okay, they're probably out into the woods. My daughters are probably out into the woods because they know they have to protect themselves. And hard to explain. It's hard to believe that this kind of thing can happen in this day and age. And I know as I explain the story, I'm probably just on the other end of this video just receiving judgment, you know, ignorant judgment. But whatever, I still have to talk about this. This is a real event. This affects all of our lives. So my daughters run out into the woods, and I'm surrounded by these police officers making violent threats, and I'm just talking about traffic and this and that. And long story short, chaos breaks out. And so they realize my wife wasn't sitting on the porch anymore. She followed my daughters out the window, which was very strange. So they realized, the police officers realized she's not there. So they start kicking down doors and screaming and just, I mean, it's awful what's going on. No warrant, still no warrant. So when the chaos breaks out, that's when I realized, you know, I still have the right to defend myself. I don't have to stand here and take this ignorance, because almost every other state across the country would not treat people this way. And so this is ridiculous that some states can still do this. It's barbaric. It's like what was happening back before the Civil War with some states being legal to own slaves and some states being illegal to own slaves. Basically the same concept. So I realized I have the option to defend myself. So what I did is I waited until everyone was out of the way, and I ran for my life. And I knew when I made that decision, I was not going to be able to touch anyone or shout or do any harm verbally or touch pushing people out of the way, because those are violence charges and resisting with any, even though I'm defending myself. So I exercised the right to defend myself by leaving without making contact or shouting a negative word. And behind me, I heard, I'm going to have to use offensive language to describe the sequence of events that happens next. So plug your ears. So they all got automatic rifles and they're screaming at me, stop or I'll blow your motherfucking head off, is what they said to me over and over and over. Her dad was here to witness what was going on, and they had him in handcuffs, and he's encouraging them to don't blow his head off. You don't understand what's going on here. So anyways, it was a miracle that I got out of surrounded by countless cops. So after that, the police officers, they turned the dogs loose on us. They had helicopters, every last thing you could think of. But luckily, as I ran into the woods, I ran into my daughters that were out there in the woods. And so we were efficient with our moves, and we were lucky also, and we got away. We got away without getting our heads blown off. And so after that happened, her dad was a witness at the house to see what was going on. And they were screaming at pointing automatic rifles at the windows, thinking the kids were going to be sticking their heads out. The kids were long gone, but does that mean it's okay to point kids or automatic rifles at kids' heads over? Let's go back to the amount of cannabis that I was producing. Okay, I had 3 pounds of cannabis. It's about that much. And you think, well, that's a lot. No, that's not very much when it comes to treating cancer, and when it comes to people desperately clinging to life, and when it comes to fathers looking for cancer medicine for their wives or for their sons or daughters. That's not very much. That's not going to go very far. You need a lot more than that. So, long story short, I don't want to talk about my wife, and I don't want to make any assumptions or lead anybody to think anything. So what I'm going to do there is she is not going to be in the picture or in this discussion anymore. Cut 2. We're in Arkansas with nothing, having to start our lives over again. But it was worse than nothing, because I was suffering from my family being ripped apart. I was suffering from my son dying. I was suffering from judgment from the community, ignorant judgment. Now keep in mind, that was very few people that was doing the ignorant judging. Most people were incredibly supportive because they could see the overwhelming benefit of what was happening. But there's still fear and there's still ignorance alive in this world. There's ignorance in my world, me. I'm ignorant to many things. I apologize if I offended anyone during this story. That's not my goal. I don't want to offend anyone. But it's difficult for me to talk about. That's why it's been a few years of our YouTube channel and we have not talked about this. This video is getting incredibly long. So let me continue here. We built our lives back and you watched us do it. And what you can't see from your side of our channel, you just watch our videos, but we have multiple different ways that the world, the entire world, other countries, this whole country, they communicate with us through emails, private messages on our Etsy, comments, Marco Polo, which is like a video app for your phone, and text, everything you can think of. So we're answering we're interacting with countless people every single day from around the world who started out being a little fearful to try a new project. So they ask us what we think and we encourage them. We kind of give them a little boost that they needed. They start, they're slightly unsuccessful. They share pictures. We encourage them to try this, try that. They do that, then they share more pictures. They're getting better at their skill, better at their craft, what they've been putting off for years. They find out they're able to accomplish. So we're interacting with countless people a day across the whole world. That's what you don't see from your side of the channel, but from our side of the channel, that's what's going on. You know, we started this YouTube channel to interact in the community and to bring that positivity, because that's what we need in this world now more than ever. I won't get into any political stance on that, but this is a scary time we're living in. Okay, I'll move on because I got to shorten this up. So, in having gone through what I went through with my son, dying from SMA, watching my brother cure his cancer, being judged by the community, running for my life, and she was involved in a lot of this too, and so this created this It was hard to deal with the violation. It was hard to deal with the unjust. It was hard to deal with the ignorance, with the fear. It was hard to deal with all that. Those are the reasons why we decided to go out on the trail. When you're judged and you're beaten and you're abused, it's difficult to maintain a high level of self-esteem. So you have to do things to prove to yourself that you are capable, because there is a league of people in the world trying to convince you that you're not capable. And look at you, you're a bum, you don't have anything. Well, I've had lots. I've started over from nothing and worked my way up, and then it all gets taken. Anyways, I'll continue. So, after being in Arkansas for almost 5 years, and as you know, we weren't hiding at all. We had a YouTube channel with an address, and everybody knew where we were. They'd ask all the time on comments and emails, and we'd tell them exactly where we were. People would come to our homestead that we didn't even know, and to hang out and to learn to carve a bowl or whatever they're going to do. Long story short, so after being there for almost 5 years, we decided to hike the trail.
Why not?
Why not? You know, we needed to do that. So the day after we left our homestead to head over towards Amicalola Falls in Georgia, where the Appalachian Trail starts, the day after we left our homestead, my sister calls and says, the place, our homestead, just got raided by federal marshals. Federal marshals. Federal marshals. Okay, so there was an 18-man crew came to our homestead. Now, our homestead consists of 80 acres. This 80-acre piece of property was a piece of property that we had bought as a family over 10 years ago. And over that 10 years, more of us would move there. So my mom and dad moved there, my brother moved there, one of my sisters moved there. Now my other sister moved there, and they got families. They come there with families, and they're building their homesteads similar to ours. And so when the federal marshals come there, it's a family scene. My sister, she makes a living at farmers market. She has a big stone oven that she made to bake bread in, her and her husband and her kids. So they're at markets. They do multiple markets a week, selling sourdough bread that they bake in their wood-fired oven. My other brother-in-law and sister, they just moved out there. They're building them a home. My other brother, he lives there with his wife. You know, they have their business. It's just families with businesses, and we just work. So they come flying up the driveway with black SUVs, skidding sideways, and my sister's headed out to work, and she's taken her 16-year-old daughter to work, and then she's got a couple of younger girls ranging from maybe 3 months old to like 10 or something like that. Black SUV, skid sideways, jump out, holding banana clip rifles, screaming profanity, get out, no, car, threatening to blow their heads off and stuff. Unbelievable. Over this much cannabis. Arkansas is a legal state, allegedly. So is Virginia. Unbelievable. So there's an 18-man crew comes to our homestead, violating everyone, herding the kids up, shoving guns in their faces, screaming at my brothers and sisters, making outlandish claims. Multiple drones in the air. There's a task force flying the drones from a different ridge. We speculate about a 40-man crew. Countless vehicles, roadblocks, they came to take me down for this much cannabis from 5 years ago. Now, in the state of Virginia, which this happened shortly after I left there, they legalized cannabis. And they legalized, now it's legal for each adult in the house to produce more volume than what they are charging me with. And there was multiple adults in our house, so we could have came up with 5 times the volume what they're charging me with. But somehow, this is okay to send federal agents across country and endanger and expose themselves to my kids, to my sister's kids and everything. What does that say to the community? What do you think they're going to grow up thinking? Oh, this is an example of intelligence. I will respect this. They're not going to grow up thinking that. No one who witnesses that will grow up thinking, this is an example of intelligence. I will respect this. No one can witness what we witnessed and think that. So here we are at the end of the trail, and we can't go back to our home. And we have nowhere to go, and we have no money to get there, and we don't even know what it is we're going to do when we get there. And to explain everything that I made a desperate attempt to explaining needed 25 hours. I feel like I'm trying to thread a needle with a bulldozer. Like there needs to be more sensitivity here to really understand the numerical data, the scientific proof, the statistics. The amount of cancer deaths in this country is absolutely staggering. I'm not going to get into that.
Everybody knows everybody dying from cancer.
Anybody watching this video, I could say probably knows somebody who's died from cancer or is dying or has some member in their family. And we can assure you that the results could be different. They could be different. That's why what I'm talking about, this affects every person alive in this world today. There are so many people's lives caught in between this ridiculous, embarrassing legalization of cannabis. There's so many people's lives caught in between that who's just getting ripped apart, absolutely ruined, destroyed. What good is it going to do for me to go turn myself in and become some number in some system that can encourage state funding to fund a program that we don't even need? Meanwhile, I can't go back to my job where I benefit the community, local and abroad. I'll be forced to go put on roofs on some houses and get paid almost nothing in probation for the next 6 years.
And that's not going to help anybody.
That's not going to help anybody. That's not even what we're talking about. That's not even the problem. That's not the issue here. The issue is, but see, if I start talking about it in today's society, we're programmed, oh, he's just an angry fanatic. Now, I'm simply a person who experienced things with my eyes that blew my mind, and that I feel it would be an injustice to society to not relay that and to not do my part. And so I did my part, and I'm going to continue to do my part, and I don't plan on turning myself in. And that is symbolic. Because if I selfishly turn myself in, then what have I done or said for all the other people who are desperately trying to find some sort of cancer medicine or some sort of something for epilepsy, and they can't because I selfishly went and turned myself in? I don't want to do that. I'm trying to talk about awareness. I'm trying to cultural isolation. You've heard us talk about cultural isolation in our videos. It's real. Cultural isolation is very real. Anyways, I won't ramble on anymore. We'll let this be the way it is. But we don't know where we're going to go. But we do know that we're going to go there together. You know, both of us are going to go there together. We do know that.
We know that.
So I hope this made some sort of sense to you. And I hope to see you guys in our next video, if we're able to even make another video.
And thank you.
Thanks for watching.